Support for this NPR podcast and the following message come from Microsoft Teams, a digital workspace in Office 365, where teams can create, collaborate, and communicate authentically. Work, share, and connect with the people in your work life. Visit office.com/teams to learn more.
How did you even know how to make a burger? I mean, were you a good home chef? Was anybody in your family a good chef?
Listen, you come from my hometown, you can't make a burger, you can't live. So, I mean, we knew how to make burgers. I knew how to cook a potato. That was about it.
You knew how to grill a burger and how to fry potatoes.
Yeah.
And that's all you really needed to know how to do.
That's all we knew.
From NPR, it's How I Built This, a show about innovators, entrepreneurs, idealists, and the stories behind the movements they built. I'm Guy Raz, and on today's show, how a tiny family-run burger joint in suburban Virginia became one of the fastest-growing restaurant chains in American history. So Jerry's got to move a little closer to that mic, right? Yeah. So Jerry, get a little bit closer.
Okay.
And can you see me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. You ready?
No.
Okay. Introduce yourself, please. If I met you at a party, I'd say, who are you? What's your name?
I'm Jerry Murrell.
And what do you do?
Sell hamburgers.
So this is the founder of Five Guys Burgers and Fries. Jerry Murrell is 73 years old, and it's been a long journey to get to where he is today. He was born in a small mining town in northern Michigan, and Jerry says when he was a kid, his dad wasn't around that much.
He was an adventurer. He wasn't very family oriented. He was a stunt pilot. That's probably why my mom and him got a divorce fairly early.
Jerry went to Catholic school as a kid, where he says he was not the best student.
I was a terrible student. I didn't like school. In fact, I can remember the nuns used to say, you know, you're going to end up selling hamburgers someday, so if you don't work hard.
Anyway, Jerry did get through school, and eventually he went on to study at the University of Michigan.
I got scared there. I said, my God, how am I going to make it in this world with all these smart people around? In fact, I was more intimidated after I got out of college than ever.
So after college, Jerry moved back to his hometown, and he married his high school girlfriend. He got a job selling life insurance, and they had 3 sons. But the marriage didn't last. His wife ended up leaving and taking the kids to Florida. And for Jerry, that was a low point. Kind of floated around for a while, lived in different cities. He wasn't sure what he was going to do with his life. But he was sure of one thing.
Well, one thing I was sure of is I was going to get my kids back.
You wanted your kids to live with you?
Right.
How are you going to do that?
Well, I didn't know yet.
Around the mid-1970s, Jerry was offered a consulting job in the D.C. area, so he took it, and he moved to Alexandria, Virginia. And that's where he met his second wife, Janie. And after a situation stabilized a bit, his kids did actually come to live with him. And it was also around that time when Jerry decided to become a financial planner.
I was shocked at how much money there was in the D.C. area. So I said, I'm going to go back in the financial planning business. And I got my degree from Bryn Mawr and started selling financial products to people in the D.C. area. And that's what I did.
So the boys move in with you.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you've got 5 people. You've got a household of 5 people.
Right.
And that was basically what you did? You were a financial planner?
I was a financial planner. I tried a few businesses. I started an oil business in Texas, and I did a couple other dumb things. I tried to start a water business, of all things. I thought selling bottled water back then would have been a good idea. And everybody laughed at me. I had a hard time raising money.
This is in the early 80s?
Middle 70s. The worst one was oil, because I started a company and I went down to Texas and found out that they were waiting for me because I was from the East and they're going to take all my money. and then my wife and I went into the real estate business, and we were experts at buying real high and then wait until it crashed and trying to get rid of it.
Okay, so if I get this right, you were doing financial planning as your main job, but you'd had like all these business ideas that you would try out on the side?
Yep.
And basically none of them worked out.
Right. I really didn't know what I was doing. I'm just lucky that I got in the hamburger business.
So how does Five Guys begin? What's the genesis of it?
You want to hear the short side or the long side?
No, I want the long side.
Well, where I grew up, there was a guy named Push 'em Up Tony. And Push 'em Up Tony had a little tiny hamburger place with a picnic table in it. And he had a grill, and he didn't sell anything except hamburgers. And he always seemed happy. And it stuck in the back of my mind because people used to come from all over town to get hamburgers there. And then when I moved to Washington, I saw something I just couldn't believe. It was Ocean City, Maryland. And they had a place, and they were selling boardwalk fries. There's a place there called Threshers. And there must have been 20 places selling boardwalk fries, but only one place had a long line, and that was Threshers. The line was 100 feet long all day long. So me and the kids, that got into our mind like, hamburgers and fries, and keep it simple, might work. And that's where the idea came from.
So what did you do? Did you go to your wife and say, let's try a burger joint?
Yes.
What'd she say?
Probably the same thing the banks said at the time. Are you guys out of your mind? But we did it a little different. We said, let's not put a lot of money into it. Mm-hmm. And let's find a place where the rent is real low, out of the way, where nobody can see it. Mm-hmm. And everybody said, why would you want to do it that way? And we said, well, if we can put it where it's hard to find, but if we can get people coming there, then we know we got something.
And this was in 1986, right?
Yes.
So where was the first location?
Columbia Pike and Glebe Road in
Arlington, Virginia.
Yeah.
And it was like a little place and rent was cheap. And how much money did you have to put up to
with our first store, we put $35,000 in.
And what did that cover?
Everything.
The rent and the equipment?
The equipment. We found junk equipment, rebuilt it ourselves. It was stand-up only. And Chad and Matt were still in high school. In fact, Chad was, I think, maybe 13 or something. And I said, I got some money saved up for college if you want to go to college. And they pretty much said, no, we'd rather do something else.
Wait, go back for a second. You sat your kids down and you had your kids' college fund and you said to them, hey, look, I got this college money. I will send you to college, or you cannot go to college and we can use it to open up a burger joint.
Right.
Were you, you can imagine today like a parent saying that to their kids and then other parents saying, you're mortgaging your kid's future on this burger joint?
Yes.
Did you have any of that feeling in your mind like maybe this is not a great idea?
No. If something was telling us it was the right thing to do. Probably, you look back on it, was probably a silly, it was kind of.
It was kind of crazy.
It was crazy. It didn't seem crazy to us. For some reason, we all seemed to be on board with it.
Yeah.
And now I was really surprised because the kids jumped right in and worked hard, and Janie worked hard. She kept all the books, and I was amazed how the kids jumped into it.
And what is the story with the name? How did you come up with it?
Well, one of my lawyers said you should incorporate, and you need to have a name as he fills out the papers. Well, this was so well thought out that we didn't have a name. So me and Janie and the boys said, We had 3 sons plus one more son with Janie. My 5th son wasn't born yet. So it was 4 sons and me. So we said, well, we'll call it Five Guys for now, and then we'll change it. As soon as we get the papers filled out, we'll change it. And the lawyer said, okay.
Okay, so on your first day, the opening day, 1986, did you guys have like a grand opening?
No, we didn't. And when we first opened up at 11 o'clock, there was no business at all until 11:45. And then one person finally walked in, and 12:30 we were almost packed.
Wow!
And we made money from our very first day, and we were breaking even. We were paying our rent.
And you didn't have any employees, right? Because everybody was in the family.
We had a couple employees, but mostly it was the kids, and we were paying them some. I think at the time we were paying them $7.50 an hour or something like that.
how did you even know how to make a burger? I mean, were you a good home chef? Was anybody in your family a good chef?
Listen, you come from my hometown, you can't make a burger, you can't live. So, I mean, we knew how to make burgers. And from where I'm from, Posen was right near us, and they raised potatoes. I grew up on a farm that we raised a lot of potatoes. I knew how to cook a potato, and we know how to cook a hamburger. That was about it.
You knew how to grill a burger and how to fry potatoes.
Yeah.
And that's all you really needed to know how to do.
That's all we knew.
Where did you guys get the ingredients from, like the potatoes and all this stuff? Like, how did you know how to source this stuff?
We went to Threshers in Ocean City and looked on the potato bags, and we found out they came from Rigby, Idaho. A guy named Rick Miles was a small potato dealer out there, so we got a hold of him, and we said, would you sell us potatoes? We did not know at the time that he was small. Now he's become a multimillionaire because we buy all our potatoes from him.
And what was so special about his potatoes?
They were sold by Threshers in Ocean City.
So you thought, hey, if there's a line outside this potato joint, their potatoes must
be good.
Right.
Must be good.
What was Five Guys offering at that time? Was it burgers with all the toppings and all that stuff?
Well, what we did with the kids, Janie and I would not tell the kids how much we were paying for the product. We said, whatever pickles you want to put on the hamburgers, you guys pick the pickles. So they would try different brands and different pickles, and finally they'd end up with the most expensive pickles there were. And we wouldn't say anything about it. We'd say, okay, if that's the pickles you want, buy those pickles.
They would just buy them at the supermarket?
Yeah, at first.
Okay.
Then we said, well, buy the most expensive cooking oil you want to cook in, and it was peanut oil because that's where they cooked them out in Ocean City. They wanted to buy this bread from a little baker in Arlington that made really good bread, Brenner's Bakery. They're probably the best bakery in Arlington at the time. But for a restaurant business, that would be expensive. We were paying about 7 times for a hamburger bun as McDonald's was then.
And what was a burger going for in 1986?
I think we were selling something for like 3 times, 4 times what McDonald's was selling for, which everybody said we were crazy. We wouldn't make it that way. But we didn't let the kids know how much we were paying for any of the food. So they would just go out there and whatever it was, if they liked it, that's the way it was.
And what was the thinking behind that strategy?
The thinking was that they're going to pick the best product. They're going to pick what the customer likes, what they liked. Give you an example how ridiculous it is. The kids liked a certain kind of mayonnaise because it was thick and it would hold things together. And we were buying our mayonnaise at the time from a guy up in New York City that was really hard to get along with. And so when we hired our first purchasing agent, he said, there's no way that mayonnaise is this important. No way, because this guy was so hard to deal with. So we had all the family come in and do a blind mayonnaise taste. And to this day, I can't eat mayonnaise by itself. So we had like 9 different dishes with mayonnaise, and you had to take a little spoon, and everybody would taste the mayonnaise blindfolded. And he'd say, I'm going to prove to you that you can't tell the difference in this mayonnaise or any other mayonnaise, you know. And after we took our blindfolds off, my wife, myself, and all the boys picked the same mayonnaise.
Wow.
He couldn't believe it. And it was the mayonnaise we were getting from New York. So Janie and I, what we would do is at the end of the month, we'd look at the sales, and then we'd look at how much we paid for the food, and we'd say, we got to raise our prices. The kids didn't know why we were raising the prices, but we would always say, food costs would stay around 30%. Whatever we got to do, if we got to raise prices, we raise prices. And we said, if we have to worry about price, we don't want to be in this business.
Okay, so you've got this first burger joint, right? And and how do people find out about it? How do people even know about it?
The only way would be somebody else telling them.
They said, there's this great burger place, this little like walk-up shack. You got to try it.
Right. That's the only way they would have found out about it. There was a place in D.C. when I first moved here. I had an office downtown that lunch and breakfast, but it was downstairs, and it was an alley. And there was nothing on the door, if I remember right, just a steel door coming off the alley. But all the officers around there would go to this place, and it was unmarked, and it was an alley. And I was always impressed with the fact that that guy could do that much business up there. And I knew him. I knew how much money he was making. And he sold it, and within 3 months it was gone. the people were going there for the food, and it was working. And I said, well, heck, if that guy can do that, then we'll just open up in a corner, and if people like us, they'll come, and if they don't like us, they won't, and then we won't be in the business.
Coming up, how Five Guys did stay in business and how they grew way beyond Virginia, even though the last person who wanted to do that was Jerry. Stay with us. I'm Guy Raz, and you're listening to How I Built This from NPR.
Support for this podcast and the following message come from U.S. Bank, a company that believes in doing the right thing. In fact, U.S. Bank has been named one of the world's most ethical companies 4 years in a row by the Ethisphere Institute. More at usbank.com/newsroom. U.S. Bank, the power of possible. World's most ethical companies and Ethisphere names and marks are registered trademarks of Ethisphere LLC. Equal housing lender. Member FDIC. Support for NPR and the following message come from City National Bank, working to help businesses, entrepreneurs, and their families on the way up for over 60 years. Visit cnb.com to learn more. City National, the official bank of the 2018 Tony Awards.
Hey, welcome back to How I Built This from NPR. I'm Guy Raz. So Jerry and his sons opened up a tiny burger joint in Arlington, Virginia. And at first, people knew about it through word of mouth. But of course, eventually, newspapers started to write about the burgers, and then the lines started to get longer. So Jerry and his family started to think about opening a second location. But they needed the money to finance it.
I can remember going in the bank, and they said, "You're going to do what?" I said, "I want to open another hamburger place." And it was just, they laughed at us. So my sons said, we got friends that their parents got a little bit of money and they know Five Guys is doing good. Maybe we'll ask them for a few thousand. So eventually we got about 150, 200 people that would be willing at any one time to give us money.
But not as investors, just for loans.
We did it a different way. We did it as investors. We'd say, give us $5,000. We'll give you a certain percentage of the gross, never the profit, because there was always too many ways to cheat people that way. So I said, we'll give you a certain percentage of the gross. We'll give you the money every single month. And anytime you want your money back, you can have it. And everybody said, well, that's stupid, because if you have a blip, everybody's going to come in and ask for their money back. But my method to my madness was also that I said to them, anytime I want to pay you back, I can. Because I knew someday, if this thing was successful, I was going to get better financing. And I could go back to these people and pay them back anytime I wanted.
So you never gave them, so they weren't equity owners?
Not in a real sense. We just made a note, said, if this store does $20,000 a week, you get a certain percentage that every week. And we gave them the money exactly on time every month so that we could always go back and ask for more money.
So how much money did you raise to do store number 2?
Well, for store number 2, we probably only had to raise maybe $150,000. But we had a lot of people that just wanted to throw money at us.
Because they liked the burgers? They liked what you were doing?
Well, they liked the fact that we were making money and they were getting paid every month. I had about 75 people I didn't even know on that list. And I used to say to every one of them, don't put your money in somebody else's business. And they were just, it seemed like a lot of people saw something in Five Guys.
Were you fully committed to this, or were you
No.
still doing financial planning?
I was still doing financial planning.
At what point do you say to your kids and your wife, I'm going to give up my job and I'm going to focus on Five Guys full time?
Well, that was almost the day I got hit in the head with a broom. I must have been having a bad day at the office or something, and I went home and I said to my wife, I quit. And she said, you got to be crazy. And I said, no, I'm done. I'm not going to work anymore. I'm just going to concentrate on the burger business. And she was pretty upset.
Because she thought this is too risky?
Yes.
But you thought, I think we can make this work.
Well, I thought it was fun.
Yeah.
I always told my kids, I said, you don't have to be in this business. If you want to be, make sure it's fun. Pick something you like to do in the business.
Okay, so now it was like the entire family focusing full time on Five Guys.
Yep.
What roles did everybody play?
Well, Janie is like a general. I mean, she is very organized. She runs the office and everything, but my kids were able to go to investors, and so I kind of, if it wasn't for them and my wife, there would be no Five Guys. I didn't build Five Guys. I used to sit around thinking, God, look at this thing. It's growing so fast. I can't believe it, you know. They came up with most of the new ideas, and they pretend they listen to me.
So I've lived in the Washington, D.C. area for a long time, off and on. And I remember, driving to Virginia in 1999, 2000 to get a Five Guys burger in Virginia when it was still just, 4 or 5 locations. 2002, up until 2002, you grew it to 5 shops.
5.
And were you doing pretty well? Were you all making a decent living at that point? You guys must have been rich.
No.
You weren't.
But the thing is, we had figured out the nuts and bolts of the business by then. Most franchisors start off to franchise. We didn't start off to franchise. We had no idea we were going to do that. We started off to build a family business, and we put 17 years into it, and we figured out how to do it right.
Yeah.
So when it came time to franchising, I mean, we had a perfect system.
So how did you then at that point say, hey, let's franchise, let's build this thing out?
My sons came to me about in the late 1990 and started trying to convince me to franchise. And I was dead set against it, really dead set against it, because I didn't think there was any way I could convince other people to do what we were doing.
So how did they change your mind?
Well, there was a guy named Mark Mosley that was selling franchises for another company. He had been watching Five Guys for a while, and my kids got me to meet with him. I didn't want to do it. Mm-hmm. In fact, they bought me a book called Franchising for Dummies. It was written by Dave Thomas.
Oh, the guy from Wendy's.
Yeah, the guy from Wendy's.
Yeah, okay.
And so I read it, and the legal stuff was amazing, all the rules you had to follow and everything.
Yeah.
So they talked me into it.
Why didn't you want to do it?
Because when you start franchising, first of all, telling a franchisee that you're not going to worry about food costs, sounds pretty stupid. You're going to tell a franchisee that you're not going to advertise? That sounds pretty stupid. You're going to tell them that you're only going to sell hamburgers and French fries? They're all going to say, wait a minute, we got to be open later, we got to sell alcohol, we got to watch food costs, we got to shop around for our products. And I said, I don't do that. And I said, we buy from people and we're going to stick with them. That was all hard to sell to franchisees. But we got through that. And I remember Mark coming in because he was going to be our salesman. He said he was going to sell, I can't remember how many stores the first year they were going to sell. But I said, no, just cut that in half. If you're going to sell 50, just cut it down to 25. You don't have to sell 50. And I think within a year and a half or 2 years, we sold 3,500. We sold the whole United States.
So wait, but your burgers were still a lot more expensive than like a McDonald's burger.
Absolutely.
And it took a lot longer to get a burger there, right? Like it's not instant, it's not sniggity, right?
No.
It takes longer to get a burger. So, the business model is different. So were you worried? Did you ever think, maybe this works in Northern Virginia, but I'm not sure this is going to work somewhere else?
Absolutely. It scared the heck out of us. You were talking about the long wait. We used to have a sign in one of our stores that said, if you're in a hurry, there are a lot of really good burger places near here. And everybody said, oh, my God, you can't put that sign up. And it helped.
Yeah.
I remember the first franchise store we opened up was in Richmond. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh, my God, Richmond. Nobody's going to know who we are in Richmond.
Yeah.
I couldn't even sleep the night before. Richmond, that's like down the road 90 miles. It's nothing.
Yeah.
But I couldn't even sleep. I said, nobody's going to know who we are. And the Richmond store was successful. And then they said, well, now we're going to go to North Carolina and South Carolina. I said, nobody knows who we are down there. And I said, no way we're going to Florida, because people will never buy that product in Florida because they're older people. And we got 100 stores in Florida or something. The
idea of going from 5 stores in 2002 to thousands of stores within a year or 2 years.
Well, we didn't go to thousands of stores. We sold franchises. Those are still being built out in the United States. We've got about 1,400 of them built out now. But all the territory in the United States is gone.
Was that just mind-boggling to you?
Mind-boggling. And I was so proud of my kids that didn't go to their head. They're still my kids. They work just like they used to. They work hard every day.
And what is it? I mean, what's it like to work with your 5 sons and your wife? I mean, they're all involved in the company. They each do a different thing for the company?
Well, I have one son that just loves doing stuff in the stores, like making sure they're painted right and decorated right, and he's really into that.
So that's his job.
That's what he does mostly. Yeah. And I got another one's a fanatic about the food, and so he goes around the world putting on shows on how to cook things right and stuff. And I got another son that he's really into the financing part of it. He grabbed it, and I'm glad because I don't understand a lot of it, especially this international finance. So everybody's kind of found their own little niche, you know. And my grandkids, I got 4 grandkids working in business. Some of them like teaching, some of them like working in the field, and one of them just loves taking care of making sure there's no foodborne illness. She's just a fanatic about it, and she loves doing it. And so I let them find what they want to find, and if there's a gap that can't be filled by them, then we'll hire somebody.
Is your family still the primary owner of the company?
Yes, we own about 75% of the company, me and my family. But we took in a fairly big investor when we first started franchising. They don't interfere in our business at all. They gave us a big chunk of money. They're entrepreneurs too, and they saw something in Five Guys.
What percentage of the actual restaurants do you guys own? Does Five Guys?
We own out of about 1,500 restaurants. We have a joint venture in Great Britain and France and Germany where we own. With our partner, half. That's about 60 stores. And then over here, we own about 450 out of the 1,400.
So how many countries total is Five Guys in now?
We're in Great Britain, which I guess is still one country
okay.
for now.
Right, you're in the UK.
And we've got 60 stores there. We're doing France. We just opened up in Champs-Élysées. Got a store in Madrid. We got several stores in the Middle East. So I think a lot of people, when they get a little bit successful, they look back and try to figure out how they did it. I can't figure it out.
You still don't know?
No.
Do you think a lot of it was luck?
Oh, my God, yeah. 2 things I give a lot of credit to. I'm a great believer in intuition or a higher power or God or whatever you want to call it. I'm a great believer in listening to my hunches, and I couldn't have done it on my own, that's for sure. My kids, I'm luckier than heck I got my kids and my wife, because it seems like to me, without them, we'd have done nothing. But we were lucky, real lucky.
Really your vision was not to open up a burger joint. Your vision was to get your kids to live with you when you and your wife divorced.
Right.
That was your real success, getting your kids to come live with you.
I think so. Yeah, the best thing that's ever happened in my life is my kids. There's no doubt about that. And the best thing that's happened to their mother, which is my ex-wife, is the fact that they were able to do all kinds of wonderful things for her.
Yeah.
So.
And you still have a pretty good relationship with her?
Oh yeah. So does my current wife. Yeah, we get along.
So she's benefited from the success of your sons
Absolutely.
Yeah. How did being financially stable and set, how did that change your life? Were you able to do things that you couldn't do before?
Well, most people that I know, I've known since I've been a kid. When I started Five Guys, I let 3 or 4 of my buddies that I went to high school with buy stock in my company because I thought it would be a great thing for them because they didn't have money. A little bit. They had a little bit of money, but not much. And one of them, I had to loan them the money. And they're all millionaires now.
Wow.
But we're still same old people. I mean, I just had bunch of my friends down from Michigan a couple weeks ago on my boat in Florida. We drink beer together, and same as it was 30, 40 years ago.
And you can lead a pretty anonymous life. Like you're not walking around the street and no one's like, oh, there's Jerry, the founder of Five Guys.
No, in fact, my wife always says she gets upset at me if I'm sitting out in the front yard eating a can of beans or something. And I always wear Levi's but no, I don't know how other people look at me, but I don't think any of us put on airs. I hope not.
Yeah, it's amazing. I was thinking back to what you said earlier that when you were a kid, the nuns said you were going to sell hamburgers.
Yeah.
What about your mom? I mean, what would she have thought about what you did with Five Guys hamburgers?
My mom liked hamburgers. She probably would have thought that was a good idea. In fact, my mom used to say, if you can make a good hamburger or serve a good drink or give a good haircut, you'll always
have something to do, yeah.
Have an income. Yeah.
Jerry Murrell, founder of Five Guys Burgers and Fries. And if you add up all of the restaurants and franchises around the world, he says they are approaching $2 billion in revenue. By the way, for years, Five Guys resisted selling milkshakes. But about 2 years ago, after considerable debate, some stores decided to start selling them with mix-in flavors like peanut butter, banana, strawberries, salted caramel, and, of course, why not, bacon. And please don't turn us off just yet. In a moment, we're going to hear from you about the things you guys are building. But first, a quick thanks to one of our sponsors, Squarespace. Do you have an idea for your next big move? You can use Squarespace's award-winning designer templates to create a beautiful website or online store equipped with everything you need to run your business. Visit squarespace.com to start your free trial and use offer code BUILDIT for 10% off your first purchase. Hey, thanks for sticking around because it's time now for How You Built That. And our story today comes from Aiden Emelo. She lives in Jackson, Wyoming with her husband, Jesse, and their 2 dogs.
The husky is Yaz, named after the baseball player, and the German Shepherd is Tuckerman.
And all 4 of them spend a lot of time outside. It's Jackson, Wyoming, so skiing, fly fishing, trail running, hiking. The dogs love it, the humans love it, except for a small problem.
Well, I noticed it with my dog, Tuckerman. I noticed a cloudiness in his eyes when he was pretty young, like only 2 years old. And then we noticed Yaz was getting pretty visible sunburn after we'd spend long days on the water.
In Jackson, Wyoming, the sun is really bright. And as it happens, a lot of dogs are sensitive to overexposure. Their eyes swell up or cloud over. And some dogs can even lose their vision. So to find a solution, Aiden's husband, Jesse, started digging through their old ski equipment.
So he just started chopping up ski goggles and came up with these retrofitted goggles for the dogs.
Which were pretty janky looking at first. A plastic visor they got from the dollar store, taped to the old ski goggles, all put together with a jumble of straps and hair ties.
I think I probably laughed out loud when we first put them on it, just being like, this is ridiculous. But I guess, I'd better a silly looking dog than a blind dog.
Aiden and Jesse kept refining the goggles until people started to ask them, hey, where can I get those for my dog? But they weren't sure there was an actual market for dog goggles, so they decided to ask an expert, their vet.
So he put the prototype down and looked across the table at us, and he said, well, you're probably going to need some capital. And I looked at him and said, yeah, I think we will. And he's like, well, I think that's our next conversation.
So, yeah, their vet actually gave them some money. Enough money for Aiden and Jesse to find a manufacturer in China and then launch their very first line.
The lenses range from neon pink to neon green. A lot of people love the crazy lenses just because they make your dog look like some sort of superhero robot. They make them look pretty badass.
And in fact, Aiden says since they started the company 2 years ago, they've sold more than 10,000 goggles and are planning to release 4 new models by the end of the year. And 8 months ago, she and her husband quit their day jobs.
Yeah, it's funny. I was just recently at a college reunion, and everyone's going around. Oh, I haven't seen you. Great to do. What do you do? What do you do? And I say, oh, I make dog goggles. And people say, what? No, really, I make dog goggles.
That's Aiden Emelo of Jackson, Wyoming. Her company is called Rex Specs, and you can read more about it on our Facebook page. Just search How I Built This on Facebook. And of course, if you want to tell us your story, go to build.npr.org. We love hearing what you're up to. And thanks for listening to the show this week. If you want to find out more or listen to previous episodes, you can go to howibuiltthis.npr.org. You can also subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts or however you get your podcasts. You can write to us. It's hibt@npr.org. And if you want to send us a tweet, it's @howibuiltthis. Our show was produced this week by Casey Herman with original music composed by Ramteen Arablouei. Thanks also to Neva Grant, Sanaz Meshkinpour, Claire Breen, and Jeff Rogers. Our intern is Lawrence Wu. I'm Guy Raz, and you've been listening to How I Built This from NPR. If you're looking for a new podcast to try, how about Planet Money? Give it a fresh listen. One thing people say about Planet Money is how much they love listening to it, even though they don't care about business or economics. It's just a smart show with great stories that help explain our world. It's explanatory journalism at its best for a time that really needs some sane reporting about the big questions. Find Planet Money on NPR One or wherever you get your podcasts.